Ever feel like you're just trying to keep up with the really big changes happening? We know the feeling. So today, we're doing a deep dive into something huge, this unfolding space race 2.0.
Yeah, it's a big one. Our mission here is to sort of cut through the noise and figure out what's really driving it.
Mm.
Who are the main players, what could happen down the line, and maybe find some surprising angles in this whole new space era.
We've looked at some really interesting material for you, some sharp analysis on the money and the politics of it all, plus some historical context to see how it echoes the past. And what jumps out right away is, wow, this feels different from the Cold War space race.
Oh, absolutely. The original race was, well, it was mostly about national pride, wasn't it? Showing off tech superiority and definitely military undertones. Those things aren't totally gone, but the main engine's now. It's increasingly private companies, big tech ambitions, and let's be honest, the potential for profit. That's a huge shift.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. The driver's changing. Back then, it was superpower versus superpower, massive government funds, planting the flag, that sort of thing. Now you've got these billionaire-backed companies, SpaceX, Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic. They seem to be everywhere, really pushing things forward.
It's a really different picture. And
Mm.
while government agencies like NASA are still crucial, absolutely vital, their role is definitely changing. We're seeing much more emphasis on the commercial side driving things. Space tourism starting up, these huge satellite networks, and the longer term goal of actually using resources from space.
So the pursuit of profit is a main engine now.
Exactly. That's the core thing, which, could mean faster innovation maybe,
Yeah.
but it also brings up big questions about who gets access, who controls things. It's just fundamentally different from the old days.
Right. Which kind of leads us straight to China, doesn't it? Their progress has been incredibly fast, very focused. You look at their lunar missions, like Change 6 going for samples from the far side, specifically from the South Pole Aitken Basin aiming for Apollo crater. That seems significant. And they've got Mars exploration, their own space station, Tiangong. It feels very deliberate.
It does. And the messaging, the geopolitics of it, it's fascinating. Targeting Apollo crater, I mean, a place named to honor the U.S. Apollo program, the astronauts, the NASA folks. Some analysts point out China plans meticulously. This probably isn't an accident. The idea of potentially putting a Chinese flag there, that carries a lot of symbolic weight.
So it's more than just science, it's a statement.
It certainly looks that way. It signals their rise,
Mhm.
challenging the U.S. dominance that's been there for decades.
And the U.S. is definitely reacting. We've got the Space Force now, NASA's Artemis program aiming to get humans back to the moon, set up a base, and the Artemis Accords getting more and more countries signing up. What is it, 39 now? Seems like a clear response.
Precisely. It's move and countermove. China's also aiming for crewed landings by 2030, and they're working with Russia and others on this International Lunar Research Station, the ILRS. The big picture view is that China's become what they call a near-peer competitor in space tech. Really quickly.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. The economic side, the resources. This isn't just about flags and footprints anymore, is it? Feels like there might be a genuine treasure hunt starting on the moon.
Absolutely. That South Pole Aitken Basin where Change 6 is headed, the theory is it's packed with useful stuff. Minerals, maybe, from ancient asteroid impacts churning things up. We're talking metal oxides, silicon, titanium, valuable rare earth metals, aluminum, and the big one, potentially, helium-3.
Helium-3, right. That's the one people talk about for fusion power.
Exactly. Some experts, like China's chief lunar scientist apparently, believe it could potentially power humanity for, well, thousands of years. Cleaner nuclear energy. Now, that's a huge if, of course, but if it works out, wow. It's a game changer for energy, but also sets up this potential massive resource race.
A race unlike anything on Earth, maybe. But there's a flip side, a concern mentioned. The worry that China might try to control lunar resources, like they dominate terrestrial rare earths now.
That's a real concern, yeah. And it ties into this idea of a space Silk Road, extending their global influence strategy into orbit and beyond. It's not just about digging stuff up, it's about the strategic power that comes with controlling those resources.
So with all this heating up, these private companies become even more central. And the lines between, say, government space programs and private goals seem blurry.
Very blurry. And a key reason is cost. It's just gotten so much cheaper to get to space.
Hmm.
Thanks to things like SpaceX's reusable rockets, smaller satellites, it's opened the floodgates for private money. Private R&D spending in space has shot up just in the last decade or so in the U.S.
And there was that whole situation with the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, under the Trump administration. That seems like a perfect example of these tangled interests.
It really does.
Yeah.
You had someone like Elon Musk, CEO of SpaceX, a major NASA contractor, also advising the government on efficiency. I mean, it raises obvious questions about potential conflicts of interest, right?
Yeah.
There's a worry, explored in some analyses, that NASA might get pushed, maybe subtly, maybe not so subtly, away from pure science towards projects that, well, happen to align with commercial goals, like SpaceX's goals.
So the fear is NASA becomes less of a science leader and more like a big contracting agency.
Kind of, yeah. Or at least that its scientific mission could narrow. And connected to that is the concern about maybe cutting corners on regulations, on safety, if the main drive is profit and speed.
That sounds risky.
It is. Space is unforgiving, weakening safeguards for the environment there, or for people and robots. The long-term consequences could be serious. We need to think carefully about that path. Okay, so all this activity, the competition, the blurred lines, it inevitably spills over into geopolitics, potential tensions. If space is becoming like an extension of Earth's geography, are we talking about spheres of influence out there? Maybe even future territorial claims?
It's a very real possibility, unfortunately. A major issue is the lack of clear, agreed-upon rules for how people and companies operate out there, especially when it comes to using resources. The old treaties weren't really built for this commercial rush. Without clear rules, you can easily see how disagreements could escalate. Big ones.
And you can't ignore the military angle either. Our communications, economies, military strategies, they all lean heavily on satellites now. Protecting those assets is becoming crucial. And the fact that some countries are testing anti-satellite weapons, well, that tells you the stakes.
It really does. And think about it historically. Establishing a permanent base, say on the moon, could give a nation or a group huge strategic advantages, like controlling sea lanes back in the day, being able to operate from the moon, maybe controlling key orbits. That's a major geopolitical chip.
So, given all this competition, this potential for friction, and these old rules that don't quite fit, what's the way forward? Governance, collaboration.
Well, yeah, that's the trillion-dollar question, isn't it? The old Outer Space Treaty from '67. It's just not equipped for private companies wanting to mine asteroids or the moon. There's a real pressing need for new international agreements, something that balances commercial drive with the idea that space should be for everyone, ensuring access is fair, preventing a free-for-all.
It feels like we're stuck in this tension, right? Between the urge to compete and win and the logical need to work together. We know collaboration can lead to amazing things, think asteroid defense, or the International Space Station. Though even that's strained now by politics on Earth.
Exactly. Despite the current tensions, the potential upside of working together in space is enormous. Sharing data, tackling risks together, making sure space stays usable long-term, it really requires cooperation.
Okay, so let's try and sum this up. Space Race 2.0. It's this really complex mix, driven by money, by resources, by national strategy. And it's definitely going to change how countries deal with each other and, well, our future beyond Earth.
That's a good way to put it. And the key difference from the first race, the massive role of private companies, which throws up all these new legal questions, ethical questions about, who owns what out there and who makes the rules.
It really feels like a crossroads moment. You've got this intense competition, but also this deep need for collaboration, establishing some kind of rules-based space order, as some call it, seems critical for everyone back here on Earth.
Which leaves us with a pretty big thought to chew on, doesn't it, for you, the listener? Are we going to learn from our history down here? Can we make space a truly shared frontier? Or are we just going to export our terrestrial squabbles, our inequalities, our conflicts out into the cosmos? The choices we make now, they're going to echo for a long, long time.